Welcome to the Romantic Garden, everyone. Jane here. This video I'm going to attempt to explain why I named my garden the Romantic Garden and give you a little explanation of the Potager garden as well. Many people ask me why I call my garden the Romantic Garden. And this book is where the idea originated. We bought our property in 1988, and it was already an established garden starting in the 70s when our house was built. It was so lush already that I knew the soil was fertile, and I probably could start planting right away, and so I did. I was at a local nursery, a little mom and pop nursery, and I found this book in 1988. It had just come out. It's by Graham Rose, and he gardens in London, and I think he's put out new books since this one was written. And this one, my copy, is pretty dog-eared. I have used this book for all of the designs in my garden, and as you can see, I have highlighted and taken notes in the margins and every chapter that I wanted to learn something from. And I've read this book cover to cover many times. It's fabulous for anyone who wants to get out of the rut of planting their plants like little soldiers all in a row. You know what I'm talking about. Red, white, and blue flowers. So the Romantic Garden is all about creating a sanctuary, and that's what I wanted for my 4 small children. A sanctuary where they were safe, could play in the garden, could pick the flowers, could have an enjoyable time with their friends, and protected from the outside world. And so this is the book that started it all. I would just study the pictures in this book for hours, and I would make plant lists, and whenever I had a little bit of money, I would go to the nursery and I would look for the plants listed. Like it took me a long time to find skyrocket juniper, and I never did find the exact species that's in this picture, but I worked hard at making little garden rooms out in my own garden that it closely resembled many of these pictures. They didn't turn out perfect all the time, but they turned out well enough that this garden that they show in the book, I did pretty much the same thing on my own property. And after 30-some years, it's a very nice place to be. A romantic garden should be inward looking. It shouldn't be completely visible from anyone outside your boundaries. It should be secretive. It should be a garden of exploration. All of the senses should be involved. Sight, smell, sound, running water, bird sound. All of these things add to the appeal of the romantic garden. And so it was a journey. And I'm still planting. I'm still making some of these little garden rooms. When I first looked at this book, everything on every page just appealed to my senses. I wanted a place where I could just wander out with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine in the evening and just sit and contemplate the beauty of nature. I know that sounds corny, but that's what gardening is to me. I want to enjoy it with my whole soul, my whole being. And the only way I could do that was plant lushly. And I did. I planted a lot of plants. I didn't get a lot of my garden rooms exactly like the book, and I didn't really want to. I didn't want to be a slave to another gardener's ideas. So a lot of the garden rooms in my own personal garden are my choices, my tastes. And my children still love to come home, and they bring their children. And after 30 years, it has indeed grown very lush, like many of the photos in this book. People also often ask me why I call my vegetable garden the Potager garden. I'm neither French nor speak French, but I read a lot of garden books before the internet was a thing many decades ago. And it appealed to me. The potager basically means French kitchen garden or soup garden, where you mix edible plants with flowers. So there is, beauty to cut for the house, but also vegetables and fruit. And so my vegetable garden is based on a potager garden, and I have been working at it for just 6 years now. Although I planted the fruit trees a decade or so ago, I'm still trying to fix the vegetable gardens like a typical French soup garden, where I can walk out there pretty much any time of the year and bring something in the house, either to eat or to put in a vase. One of the things I love most about my garden are the gates and the different things and elements that dear husband has built me over the years. This gate was my design. It's over 30 years old now, and the antlers were given to me by my father, and he's gone now. And so whenever I see this gate, I think of my husband and I think of my dear old dad. My potager garden is not a formal garden in the strictest sense. I personally don't care for formal gardens. I like lush abundance. I like things that come about like the columbine that seeded itself. I like happy happenstance in the garden. I like the herbs planted amongst the perennials, like the chives. I like to pick blueberries that are growing side by side with thyme and oregano. It's fun to have celery growing right next to a bed full of lilies and perennials. To have red Bartlett pears developing right over the top of David Austin roses. They're not blooming yet, but they will. Marion berries are scrambling through the raspberry patch, just because we don't care about tying them up anymore. It's just a little berry patch for dear husband and I, and then roses are coming up through that, old European roses that I planted years ago. So June will be the month of fruit and roses. There are many garden rooms here, and it hasn't stayed the same, of course. No garden ever does. Nothing lives forever. Trees have come down in storms or died from old age or disease, and they've had to been taken out. Some things have gotten very large, like this viburnum plicatum, and some things that I had little tiny cuttings of from my Aunt Nea, like the very large yellow azalea, very large cherry trees, and ferns. Rhododendrons are finishing up their season, but it's so fragrant out here. It's just assails your senses with the fragrance of flowers. Little secret rooms everywhere you turn, and you can't find them just by sitting on the patio. You have to get up and you have to walk and explore. And that is what a romantic garden is to me. A garden of exploration. So thank you for visiting the romantic garden. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up or like or subscribe if you'd like more updates. As always, you know I enjoy making the videos, and I do love sharing them. So goodbye everyone, until next time.